Hi everybody, it's your girl Bunny. Get ready, relax, kick your feet up as I give a vocal recap of the entire episode with photos offset to the side and give my review and discussion questions at the end. It's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air 30-year reunion special. It's coming up next. A visual montage from September 10th, 1990, fast forwarding to 30 years later. And within that time frame, we have a montage of funny episode clips, behind the scenes footage, which leads us to the last scene of Will Smith's character observing the set one final time, the last episode to 30 years later, Will Smith cutting that light back on, redeveloping the set, and slowly one by one, cast members greet each other with smiles, laughs, and tears. Before we see any footage of discussion, for old time's sake, they rewind it just a little bit to give us an intro of nostalgia with Will Smith driving up to the set in the taxi, and we hear the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air opening song. Will Smith reflects and says, wow, sitting on this couch looking at this recreated set reminds me of how much time and how much of our lives we shared together. We spent more time with each other than we did with our own families. And Gary Parsons says, we were all from different locations and experiences, but we became fast family. We just had this bond that quickly developed. Will wants to know, how did everybody feel about the pilot? The actors reflect and say that they were super nervous, terrified how the pilot would be perceived. And the number one pet peeve of several of them was that Will, as a new actor, would mouth everyone's line. And if you know anything about acting, you're never supposed to do that. And what that is when you're actually mouthing everyone's line. You're moving your mouth because you know the words, but it doesn't look good on camera. And people started to call him out about it. And Will never knew that he was doing it until somebody showed him the footage and saying, hey, look, you know everybody's lines. That's great. But it's coming off on camera. When somebody else is talking, you're mouthing their lines. And Will says that was just such an eye opener. I didn't realize I was doing it till somebody told me. I was so determined to know everybody's line, to learn what I was doing, because I was on a set with seasoned actors. And I was a rapper. I was new to this, and I just wanted to be perfect. They all share a good laugh. And Tatiana says, man, I was a kid and I remember auditioning for Quincy Jones in New York. And one of the first things that they asked the kids there was, do you know how to rap? You got to rap. She thought, well, I could sing, but I can't rap. So she just thought that, hey, I'm not going to get the role because I can't rap. But she feels she got the role because when she tried, it came off so corny and cheesy. That's the thing that allowed her to get the role. They play Alfonso's audition tape and they get a good laugh about how young he looks and that how shy he came off. And he just couldn't believe that he had this opportunity. And he felt that he wore the wrong thing for the audition and he looked awkward. So just everybody had this vibe when they auditioned. I don't know what's going to happen with this. We also see Karen's audition, and she explained that at that time, I went to so many auditions, I was numb to hearing no all the time, but didn't realize that she was in this process of preparing this character, fluffing her hair out, doing certain mannerisms that would make Hillary. And looking back at that audition footage, told her that she got all of those no's, but all it was doing was preparing her for this one. Daphne says that she didn't even audition for the show because her rep said that, hey, we want you to be in this show with the rapper. And she's like, no, I'm not interested. It doesn't even sound right. But she gave it a chance. She sat down and she watched the show and she immediately liked the sweetness of all of the characters. Will shares this unique story about how he was steamrolled through this audition process. He had never had an audition. He didn't know what to do during the audition. But someone by the name of Benny Medina pitched this idea. And Will was rapping at the time and he could care less, but he was open to all ideas. So the idea was based off of Benny's life. He went from Watts to Beverly Hills. And Quincy Jones had a party this particular night and he was tipsy, and they laugh about that. And he was just kind of talking all about, and he asked Will, like, hey, where are you from? And he says, well, I'm from Philly. And he says, well, the character will be from Philly. At this party were some heavy hitters from NBC. There was Brandon Tartikoff and Warren Littlefield. They're at the party. Everybody's having a good time. Quincy then tells everybody, hey, move the furniture back. Move the furniture back, everybody. We're about to have an audition. And Will is just like, what? What the heck is going on? And he's explaining how he's just put on the spot. And Will is terrified. And he's like, I can't do an audition right now. What are you talking about? So Quincy pulls Will to the side in his office. And Will says he notices all of these accolades and all of these awards just in this office. He sees the 48 million plaque with Thriller, the color purple, rows and rows of Grammys on the wall. So Will sees this greatness and Will ask, like, hey, can you just give me 2 weeks? I need to get an acting coach. I just want to be great for this audition. And Quincy tells him, look, everybody that needs to say yes for this audition, for this pitch, for this idea, for the show is here right now. And Will's just like, give me 10 minutes. And while he's telling the story, the cast was just like, it was meant to be. Like, it happened in that moment. You had to get ready for this role. Will said he gave it his all, and they did a deal memo that night for the pilot. Jazz also reflects that, hey, remember we were on tour at the time and we had 1 day off. And on that day off, you had an interview on the Arsenio Hall show and you said, yeah, and I got a TV show. And Jazz is giving this look like, what the heck is he talking about? We got a show. So Jazz, at the thought of it, thought that he was just blowing smoke and there wasn't a show at all, that Will was just talking smack. And their first table read allowed Will and Alfonso to have this fun, energetic relationship. They immediately connected as friends, which was great. And they just say that doesn't happen all the time when it comes to acting. And the fact that they were able to do that so quickly was amazing. They also explained that after several table reads, they had the most powerful comedic aspect where Will and Phil would be the ones that clashed, while Carlton and the rest of the characters were the responses of this tension. The characters developed this trust of being there for one another, and that's what makes the show very relatable, and at the same time showing how they have different lenses, different ways that they see the world. They learned their audience and what they liked, and they adapted to that. And there was also a moment in the script that the direction was going a certain way and the cast was able to give their 2 cents about that. And Carlton gives an example where in the script it read, Carlton dances. And Alfonso says, I had to think of something that would get the audience's attention. And this Carlton dance, I just never imagined that it would be so successful and everybody would just love it. So he knew that he had to keep doing it. They talk about, wow, 6 seasons and 150 episodes. It's just amazing. So they start to talk about their favorite episodes or moments. And Joseph, he played, of course, the butler. And he says, my favorite was Deaf Poets Society because I had the chance to break character with Rafael Del Aghetto. And he even remembers some of the lines, cannons to the left and cannons to... So they all share their laugh. We also talk about the memorable moment where the character of Hillary, she says, it just got on my nerves. Karen, it got on my nerves that the audience really didn't like Hillary. And it's one thing to get a role, but then when nobody likes it, it's kind of like, oh man. And she understood that from the episode where Will and Carlton, where they blackmailed her and they had her doing all these crazy things. And she would just hear how the audience would just roar with laughter because she was doing these silly things. And Alfonso remembers the lines and saying, well, is Will making you clean his room? She's like, no. And he turns and says, well, will you clean mine? So that was just like a memorable moment and they share a good laugh. Tatiana's memorable moment was actually her first kiss that happened on the set. She's like, wow, I'm 11 years old and I'm literally about to have my first kiss, not only on television, but in front of everybody. And I'm doing this scene and it has to be perfect. And she says, I even remember sitting here thinking about what's about to happen. And I'm seeing cast members behind the curtain look around like, oh, she's about to kiss him. And it's just like, it's just so, I look back on it and just think, wow, like, how did that happen? It was my first kiss and it was just awkward and weird. And she was so relieved that it was over. Jazz reflects on, of course, the classic, him being thrown out of the house. And he explains how this happened. It was already written in the script for the first episode or within the first season that he would be thrown out by Uncle Phil. But the audience found it so hilarious. They said, well, we've got to film this. We've got to get you doing this over and over again. So he literally had to do 150 takes of him being thrown out of these different areas of the set. And he was so wiped out. So they thought, we got to give this guy a break. Like, we are wearing him out. We got to think of a way to make this funny. So they decided what would make it extra hilarious is that the character Jazz, no matter what he wore, they would use the same pretty much the same scene and the same footage of him being thrown out the front door. We do see him throughout the series get thrown out at different parts of the home, but majority of the time it's him through the front door wearing the same shirt and the same pair of jeans. Karen says, wait, no, what else takes the cake is when Carlton's character drags himself from set to set and the audience just dies with laughter because it's just so out of the box. And she asked him, like, what made you do that? He was like, I don't know. It's so rare that we get a chance to break that fourth wall with the audience. And I just thought it was just like, hey, it would be fun. It would be hilarious. Let me just do it. It was just something in the moment that he did. He also expresses that this show was great because it wasn't often that you were able to break down this fourth wall and connect with the audience, and that sometimes they kept the footage. They allowed the audience to be connected directly with the characters. So it was just great because you didn't get that freedom with a lot of shows. Speaking of the freedoms of the show, they talk about how Monday would be the read-through of the script, and Tuesday and Wednesday was the run-through time, and through that run-through time was their opportunity to add a little bit more of their season perspective to the script. I really don't think my character would say this or do that. We might want to change it. So they were able to speak with the writers. There were only 3 shows at the time that were Black, and Fresh Prince was one of the 3, and it was a blessing to share experiences. And one of the actresses says, yes, like there was a line that Ashley was supposed to say, and I had to talk to the writers because it's just like Black people don't talk like that to the mom or to their dad. We got to take this out. So the fact that they were lenient and saying, oh, well, thank you, we need to change that, and they were able to change it to something else, that's like groundbreaking that they had that freedom to do that. Whenever they would see something and it was able to be changed and they were able to see it on film, it was just great. Just seeing how everybody added their own spice, added their own things that they thought would make it funny. And Tatiana learned from James, the one that plays Uncle Phil, that everything you do is not about you. You have to learn about doing everything with dignity and grace. So now we reach the segment of the reunion where they talk about James Avery, and it was just really, it was a real tearjerker because we reflect on his passing. The role of Uncle Phil, as they explained, would be the guide for the family that had all of the solutions. And if he didn't know, he would be the guide to help everyone resolve whatever they needed. Personally, they reflect on how he loved jazz music and he shared all of the mentoring with everyone. He introduced them to Black art, history of television, and just everything with actors. And Tatiana says, I do remember him telling me about the actor and the singer singing Old Man River. and how there was a racial slur within that song, and he had to fight to get that changed to saying colored, or another word, and just those little pieces and those struggles that Black actors had to go through, and them being part of a cast and a writing group and writer's room, and being able to change and tweak things here and there. So it just really opened her eyes about how cultured he was, how beautiful he was to share his experiences. She honestly felt that she was his daughter, and he treated everyone like they were a part of his family. And Tatiana says that same chair that you're sitting in, he sat there and told this to me as I sat on the floor at his feet, and we were just talking. Will reflects on that memorable episode where he sees his father after so long. And he says, I just felt so afraid of James as this beautiful, seasoned, staged thespian. And we have this very emotional scene to do together. And I'm just terrified. And Will was upset that he messed up on a line and very angry. And he's just like, oh, I can't believe that I messed that up. And oh my God, we have to do it over again. I'm just messing up. And James centered his anger and telling him, look, focus, rechannel that energy. And he just yells action. And from there, they film one of the most emotional scenes of the show. Will tries again, says his lines to a very tearful moment, and Will explains me falling into his arms with all of that emotion, with all of the crying, was not because it was in the script. It's because I was really, really in the moment and feeling all of those emotions. And James reaches out and gives him that hug. And as Will is crying and they're filming at the same time, he shares that James whispers into Will's ear and says, now that is acting. And everyone listening to this, the cast members listening to Will's story, they shed tears. And they're just thinking about the scene and James's presence. They have this montage where they watch scenes from the show from James and behind the scenes memories of different things that he says. And the montage is absolutely just touching. And I even shed some tears. And after they watch the footage, there's this pause of stillness. You hear sniffles. You hear just people taking deep breaths. And actor Joseph says, guys, let's just give him a hand. And he slowly starts to clap. And he says, we got to give him this round of applause for wonderful works and his amazing performances. And they slowly clap, kind of reflecting and, listening to what he's saying. Like, yes, he did deserve a round of applause for that. Let's just give him a round of applause. Even though they're in tears and can hardly pull it together, they say, we've got to do this. So they're clapping. And it was just a very touching moment. And it takes the cast a while to collect their thoughts and their tears before moving on. So this is another turning point of the reunion special. Will says, just like a family, we're all family. We all, we can talk about some things, and then there's some things that we don't talk about. And everybody's like, what's going on? And Will says, we don't talk about publicly about Janet or together lately about everything that happened. We just can't celebrate, or I just can't celebrate 30 years of Fresh Prince without celebrating Janet. And I just got to tell you all that she did agree to sit down and talk with me. And for the first time we saw each other after 27 years plus. So he explains that the day before he did sit down with her and they have the footage, and Will wants to show everyone what happened and what they discussed. So they share that moment to just breathe, and then everybody gets prepared to look at the footage. Janet Hubert on this clothes set. She walks in and she's telling me, tell me my eyes are shining in the light, that I look like a cute little raccoon with my little eyes. Are they glistening? Okay. And Will Smith comes in and says, your eyes are beautiful. So they share an endearing hug and they take a moment and they just hold each other. And you could tell that there's a lot being said with the hug without the verbal volume. So there's just this longing for communication that's starting. Janet has her own production clip to the side, and she starts by saying, hi, my name is Janet Hubert, and the media also calls me, or you may know me as the OG Vivian Banks, and she shares a little smile. And she says, I love that character because you had this powerful, articulate, educated, dark-skinned woman that we rarely see on TV. And Will explains in his production clip that her character brought authenticity, beauty, she could sing and she could dance. And then they show a snippet of her legendary dance scene. And he says she was amazing. So when they talk together, Janet starts by asking, and she takes a pause and says, has it been tough for you? And Will says, yes. And she says, because it's been tough for me. And I just want to know one thing, like, why? Why so far? You guys went so far and I lost so much. Like, how do we heal? And Will says, I don't know. It's hard for me. What do you need? I don't know your story. And Janet says, you're right. I know. You were young. You have no idea. But it was absolutely insane. They show articles of Janet's departure from the show, headlines that kind of give this vague description and that she was fired. And Janet explains that she wanted clarity with everything. And during the third season of the show, when she was pregnant, there were a lot of things going on in her life and in Will's life. And she says, my home life was not good at all. There was friction. I was no longer laughing and smiling when I was on the set with everyone. They didn't have any idea what was going on with me. And she just takes this pause. Will explains, looking back at everything, I wasn't sensitive to finding out what was wrong with her. Now that I'm older with 3 children, married and divorced, I can see that I needed to become more aware of making the set more comfortable for her. But I just didn't think that the set was difficult, that there was things that were difficult for Janet. Janet continues and says that they offered me a really bad deal for the third season. They said you got 2 months and 2 weeks of filming and you can't work anywhere else. So she said that meant my salary was cut. I had a new baby and my husband was out of work. So I said no. I didn't accept their offer. I was never fired. So the misconception was out there that I did. But I was trapped. And the only way to move on, they explained to me, was to recast my role. And she said I was just so hurt. It hurt me just so badly. Will says to Janet, okay, what happened? Because I knew certain details because I was having a different experience. And Janet says, okay. There were things going on here and there with me and at home. We knew you were going to be huge. You went on and you had all of these roles, but that was your destiny. I mean, you were destined for that. When I left the show, my family disowned me and Hollywood disowned me. And then I just stopped talking to the cast on The Fresh Prince because I didn't know who to trust. I felt like I was abandoned and the cast just banished me. And they said that it was you who banished me because you were Will, you were the kid. And also I was just in this abusive marriage. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know who to trust. And Will says, I was 21 years old. Like everything, not you, But everything in the world was like a threat to me. I mean, and I was going through a lot. I mean, I was married, then divorced. Then I got married, I got married again. And now I have 3 children. But you know what, Janet? Now I can see your level of pain and struggle. Just for you looking back, it took so much of you just to show up on the set. But I just didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. And Janet goes on and says, but you took that away from me with your words. I lost everything. I developed this terrible reputation. Those words, calling a Black woman difficult in Hollywood is the kiss of death. Being a dark-skinned Black woman and saying that in this business is the kiss of death, saying that an actor or an actress is difficult. And when that was said about me, that destroyed everything. And Will says, I didn't know that, and I'm sorry. And I felt like you hated me. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I could not do this 30-year celebration of this show and not celebrate you. And they hug and they share that needed hug. They explain that they didn't talk together for 27 years or probably more than that. But they were glad that now they're on the path to speaking more again. And Janet enjoys this healing process. She laughs about how she enjoys seeing TikToks of people redoing that classic dance scene. And that people redo that scene all around the world. So that brings her joy, that people find happiness in that. And she just wanted to come to a place to heal. And Janet then says, I'm sorry for all the bad things that I said about you publicly. I'm sorry about that. After the footage is played of Will and Janet speaking, the cast is just kind of blown away and sitting there deep in thought, like, wow, like it was new information that they heard and didn't know. Will explains to everybody that, hey, Janet asked if everyone is open to seeing her, if everyone is okay with her seeing and greeting everyone. And what I noticed, what was interesting, is that majority of the cast is saying, yeah, sure, that's great. Except in the next scene, we don't see Alfonso. So that is a detail that I noticed. Daphne even says, the one that plays the new Vivian, says, I've never met her. And Will's like, you never met her? She's like, no, I never met her. So Janet, we then see her walk onto the set, and she takes a moment to soak in the memories of the production grounds before she's actually introduced by Will. Introducing everybody, Janet, and she's saying that and blushing. And she hugs everyone. And we see this montage of her hugging everyone and just soaking it in. They are loving every moment. So we do see that finally she's able to be around the cast, hug everybody, and it definitely feels like everything is full circle. We then see Ross Bagley, who played Nicky, the little brother, and surprised everyone to say hello. And he's just like, oh my goodness, this is surreal. I love the recreation of the set. And, believe it or not, it makes me feel like a kid again. So they laugh and they talk about it and they reflect on their Friday night rituals. And it was just to amp them up and just celebrating the show and getting them ready for filming. And they said that they would gather around and say a prayer, and everyone would come together and just take a minute to breathe. And they just explained that it was just good because the cast would have fun and be able to cheer and just be silly. The cast would get together in a circle after they did all that, and they would just pray and feel everybody's vibration of everything. And the energy would vibrate to the audience. And Jazz explains that Will brought the energy of being a performer and the crowd participation. Everybody throw your hands up, everybody get ready, and that would get the crowd ready. And the filming of the show was this hot ticket on Friday. You were able to see, the cast and everything with the show. It was Friday. You got to listen to music and see everybody get excited. So everybody wanted a ticket. And the cast knew that during season 5, there would only be one more additional season after that. So then we have the next turn and energy of the reunion special. there would be that moment in those celebrations before they filmed, and they would get different percussions and they would play them and get that energy and have fun. And they would just reflecting on, wow, do you remember the last table reading where we sat there and said the lines and everybody just had these tears and thinking about, wow, I've been here 6 years. And you just see somebody every day for 6 years, and now it's all coming to an end. And they reflect how they were really family. They felt that they had sisters and brothers, and that James was their dad, and the way he mentored them and guided them and gave them advice and constantly challenged them to be better and to take their acting skills to the next level. He always brought that to the set, which was something that they admired. So we then see the before of them playing percussion and having fun, and now the 30 years later and playing the percussions and different little instruments as Will raps the intro to Fresh Prince. And they're all having tears, and as they're laughing, it's kind of like crying and laughing at the same time. Like, I can't believe that we've come to this moment. But after he finishes the song, they say that's the end. And Will's like, that's the end, you guys. Well, I see you in 10 more years. So they all get together in a circle and they hug each other one last time for this special. And that is the end of the episode. To everybody watching, thank you for tuning in. I have a lot to discuss, but I'll go quickly. First, let me start off by saying I loved the reunion. I thought it was absolutely beautiful that it's been this long, and it's a blessing that you have so many cast members who are healthy, they're doing well, they've moved on to other endeavors, and the drama and everything attached to Janet Hubert and everything else, which I'll get to in just a second. You have to think that the skill set, the experiences, the unfaithfulness of Hollywood, the fact that they've been able to move on and do other things and can come back 30 years later and talk about their experiences and things with the show is absolutely amazing, because so many casts don't get to do that. We also cannot skip over the amazing writers, the ideas about this show, the creators, everything. We can't skip over that when we're talking about the reunion. We have to focus in on what was the crust, the brains, the ideas of this amazing show and its longevity. What's also very interesting is that after I watched this special, I went to YouTube to see what other people were saying, and there seems to be a great divide about how other people are feeling about the reunion. I seem to be completely on the other side of how I viewed this reunion when it comes to the static of Janet Hubert and her experience with the cast, everything. I noticed that a lot of people are just solely putting the blame on Will Smith, okay, and skipping over the fact that Hollywood, the head of casting, the producers, the writers, people behind the scenes, they have the controls of this show, are not getting the crust of the blame, the miscommunications of what happened with Will Smith, Janet, and the other cast members. We have to remember that when Janet explained her story, she said, well, they said you were the reason why I was fired. They said you wanted me to be banished. They said you, and you have to think, you got to put your thinking cap on. Who is the they? The theys, come on now, the theys are the people saying stuff in the ears of other actors. And not to finger point or anything like that, everyone has to take responsibility in their behaviors and actions. Now, I did some research, and this is what a lot of YouTubers are not saying because they're just going to say what everybody else says. Will Smith apologized for being insensitive to whatever she was going through or whatever was happening because he was unaware. He literally told her, a lot of the things that you're telling me, I was unaware, and now it makes sense that you're coming to the set and you have this energy like you don't want to be around people and you don't want to be there. Not understanding and doing your homework that a lot of Janet's static started from before season 1 even started. And I will post receipts. Joseph was in an interview where he gracefully said that Will Smith is the star of the show. It says the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And Janet unfortunately didn't understand that. The other castmates with receipts, right, years ago, nicely brought it up that she had an issue with that she always mentioned that you have all of these other seasoned actors, her experience, her this, her that. She didn't understand and she didn't like that. And then we have this rapper with very minimal acting experience being the star of this show. I understand the aggravation, but it doesn't exempt behaviors, valor that you have on the set. It does not justify you coming to work and doing your job. Now, I'm not justifying how they treated her when she was pregnant, saying that she only had this much to film and yada, yada, yada. But you've got to think that not talking, she also mentioned that I thought that you abolished me. I didn't want to take the offer and I didn't speak with the cast. I didn't because it's this miscommunication, and we have got to put everybody that is in charge of the wellness of all of the actors and making sure that they're okay. But let me remind everybody, Hollywood is not faithful to anyone. Do you understand that? There's a difference between being blackballed and also there's a difference between understanding your responsibilities in certain actions and certain things. I also noticed that she said, you went so far and you guys went so far and you guys did all this other stuff and I was blank, blank, blank. I felt that I was this. The anger is always so solely on Will. And looking from the outside, looking in from past interviews she did when the show was in season 1, all the way up until now, I'd probably say 90% of a lot of the things that she had complaints about were assumptions. Did Will Smith fire you or say to you you're going to be casted, or did production and casting and the people that have the power do that to you? Did Will Smith tell you to decline the offer, even though it sucked? Did he tell you to decline it? Is Will Smith responsible for your terrible marriage that you were going through, your abuse, and all of the stuff that was going on in your life? We have to start looking at everything. She also stated that I was going through all of this stuff and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell the cast members. I didn't tell production. That's understandable when there's a work environment that's already uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable with you saying that their acting skills aren't up to par with yours, in which she has said in the past in interviews. There's a bad energy that's on the set. And I'm sure that Hollywood had the buzzing in the ear of demands that she made in the past, which are still on record, that in saying that she believes she should be paid higher than Will Smith because she had more of a skill set. I can only imagine how frustrating that is. You've been to Juilliard, you've been on Broadway. I'm just giving examples. And then you have somebody with no experience comes in and gets their own show. I can't even begin to think how that would make me feel. But guess what? Like her friend Joseph said in the interview, it's not your show. You deserve to be paid how you need to be paid. And that beef, my friend, is with the honchos that are behind the scenes. I'm sure that people in ears of other people said, you know what? Janet is difficult to work with. And in other interviews, you see Will, when he was still younger, saying, well, we tried this and we tried that. There's so much miscommunication with that entire thing that it developed anger, confusion, static, and everything. And you see all of these posts on YouTube that says, Will apologizes because he was responsible for her and her career. No. Let's say hypothetically he said she was difficult, she was this, she was that, she was this, and just went on this tour of saying F Janet Hubert. Let's just say hypothetically he did that. Him taking the sole responsibility of her decline in career, to me, just doesn't sound feasible. Let's just say he played a big piece, and let's just say he went around and told everybody she was just difficult to work with. Let's just say it's difficult for me to believe, because before that, before season 1 even started to become filmed, there were issues. And seeing Will so successful, seeing all of these other actors keep going, they get along with everybody else, but you're the only, it's just, I'm not taking sides. I want everybody to see the full picture, because people will jump on the bandwagon and not look at all of the pieces that play a role and why there was static. Alfonso doesn't want to talk to you. Will had to ask, is it okay if she comes on set and talks to everybody? That's kind of odd to me. Those are clues, okay? Because I love reading mysteries, okay? Those are clues to understand the and the energy of what might have happened. You have to take responsibility in downfalls, whether it's 100% your fault or not. I wish Janet the best. She is such a phenomenal actress. The pieces that we did get to see of her were absolutely phenomenal. But I feel that there must be this level of honesty in saying, and she did apologize to Will. She said, I apologize for saying those horrible things about you. I get it. You apologized and all that good stuff. But then you have to question, did certain things that I said or certain things that I did create an unprofessional valor? Cast members not want to be around me? Nobody's asking those questions. I'm pretty sure Will Smith said some things back about her after, you know, hearing her over and over again, making those rants and saying those things. I'm pretty sure he did. And I'm pretty sure he was young and saying things that he shouldn't have said as a 20-year-old, as, you know, probably maybe ego. I don't know. I wasn't there, child. I'm just trying to help y'all understand and look at the full picture and not jump on the bandwagon and say, it was Will. Like, come on. Come on. Who's doing the hiring and the firing? Who told her she had 2 months and 2 weeks to film only and that she couldn't work anywhere else? Who told her that? Was it Will? I don't think so. Okay? Think about it. Stop. Think about it. Like Martin Lawrence said, stop. Think about it. Put all the pieces together. Everyone was responsible in everything and the static that was there. My granddaddy used to always tell me, and when he told me this, I used to always think, now that doesn't make any sense. What is he talking about? He used to always tell me to always keep this in your mind and say, if somebody else has a problem with me and I don't know about it, that's their problem. And as I got older, I analyzed that, because basically that's just like a nice Southern slang and saying, don't ask my neighbor, come to me, come to me. Ask me what's going on. Don't ask anybody else. Don't trust what anybody else is saying until you tell me it's a problem that you have that I don't know nothing about. I don't know anything about. Okay? So many documentaries on television shows, when there was static with the cast, the number one thing were assumed statements, things that happened, hearing them from other people. And the energy of a set being messed up because they had other people in their ear. Well, you know, she said she wanted more lines. For real? In order to justify why the people with the power are letting people get less lines or letting people go. It happens in a lot of reunion specials, singing groups. Come on now. I can go on and on and on and on and on and on. There's a show on TV1 called Unsung. And a lot of those groups, a lot of those artists, things happen when they're miseducated about the industry. They think somebody owes them something. I'm not talking about Janet. I'm just talking about just experiences, right? It all goes back to miscommunication. I'm pretty sure if the clock could be redone, I'm pretty sure that Janet would do some things differently. I'm pretty sure she would say things differently. I'm pretty sure Will would say, she's pregnant. She's coming to the set angry. What's wrong? What's happening? We're learning that now, even in 2020, that a woman saying that she's pregnant is like, uh-oh. It's the same thing. I was an athlete growing up. If you got injured, it was like the plague. Everybody was like, you hurt your knee? Like, nobody wanted to be around you. Women go through that when they get pregnant. Okay? And it's this energy like, you can't do your job. I don't have children. I've never been pregnant. I'm going off of seeing what people have been going through and complaints that women have had when they're pregnant. Okay? So y'all let me know your thoughts. I loved the reunion. I thought there could have been so much more and stuff that's deeper. They could have put this on regular cable. Y'all didn't have to put this on HBO Max. But then again, Hollywood is about the money. Okay? They build it up. That conversation between Will, right, and Janet and everybody else, they didn't get into while the other cast members will talk to her. They didn't get into all that. Okay? Business is business. And for anybody out there that's planning on going into the entertainment industry, please understand, look at interviews, look at documented series, look at biopics, learn from these experiences. Please learn from these experiences, and knowing that the entertainment industry is cutthroat with a K. Cutthroat. Jugular. They will chew you up, spit you out, then have the nerve to ask you for a toothpick to finish getting out the you between their teeth. Oh yeah? Let me know what you think. Subscribe to this family-friendly channel. Check out those playlists for more movie and television show reviews, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any post. I love all of you. You know I give you the real on this channel. I don't sugarcoat. I don't take shortcuts and repeat what other people say, because I base it upon my opinions, my research, my findings, my beliefs, all of that. Okay? I love you all. Be safe. Let me know what you thought about the reunion. Let me know what you think about what I said. If you agree or you disagree, please be respectable to everybody else in the comments. Everybody has their right to an opinion, and we can all agree to disagree. I love you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend, morning, whatever time frame that it is that you're watching this. Just be good, all right? I love y'all.